my name is Samantha Theobald, and this is my presentation on brain plasticity. So what is brain plasticity? Milbacher et al. Defines it as the brain's lifelong ability to reorganize itself in response to various changes in the environment, experiences, and learning. Essentially, it's the brain's ability to adapt and to change itself. A brief overview of what the research literature says about brain plasticity. First, it's been determined that all parts of the brain have this ability to adapt and change. This is important to note since we know that different areas of the brain serve different functions. Second, we know that the brain remains malleable throughout the lifespan. The brain is most dynamic during development, so plasticity is at its peak during this time. However, it remains malleable throughout your whole life. And a third important point is that the brain changes itself in response to multiple different stimuli, including big singular events like an injury, a stroke, or surgery, or through small everyday practices like exercise, learning, and through changes in our environment. What's new or trending in brain plasticity research? The topic that I kept coming across was exercise. There seems to be a lot of research coming out on how impactful exercise is for your brain health and how different types of exercise can affect your brain differently. And the other common theme that I encountered was aging. There's a lot of research on brain plasticity that revolves around how to keep your brain healthy as you age to fight off cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, dementia, and other brain-related problems that are common in old age. So why does it matter? Does it change the way that people interact with the world? I would say absolutely. We often hear that the brain stops developing around age 25, but we now know that the brain never stops changing. Throughout the lifespan, you have the power to learn new things, gain new skills, and physically change your own brain. So you're never done growing. This also gives us hope when we encounter things like illness, injury, stroke, to know that our brains can overcome these challenges. It also changes the way that we look at aging. Knowing what I now know about the brain makes me less afraid of growing old and more optimistic about the continuous opportunities to learn and to grow. My interest in the topic, I'm personally interested in this topic since I'm pursuing a career as a mental health therapist. I think knowing that the brain is malleable opens the doors for using different techniques and treatments in therapy to help people form new connections and induce or enhance brain plasticity. To go a little deeper in how this topic relates to my field of interest, let's consider some of the main reasons that someone might seek therapy. And those would be help healing from a traumatic experience, treating a mental health disorder, or just help improving their overall psychological well-being. And I think that brain plasticity can play a role in all of these circumstances. So with that connection between therapy and brain plasticity in mind, I want to share some interesting things that I learned about this topic from my research. First is the principle of use it or lose it, which basically says that as new neurons are created in the brain, if you engage with those cells through learning or experiences, they become integrated into your brain circuitry. And if you don't, those cells die and you lose them. As Shores et al. Puts it, new neurons are kept alive by effortful learning. This is wonderful news for someone that's in therapy, that's trying to change their cognitions and their behaviors. Knowing that you can feed the pathways that you want to strengthen and starve the ones that are harmful is a way that you can reshape your brain to have more beneficial thinking. The second thing that I learned was just how impactful exercise is when it comes to brain health and plasticity. One systematic review by D'Souza Fernandez et al. Found that exercise physically changes the brain in many ways, and these changes lead to reduced levels of anxiety and depression, enhanced cognitive function, improved levels of overall life satisfaction and psychological well-being, and it may even prevent cognitive impairment and dementia as you age. This obviously has huge implications for therapy, especially for treating mental health disorders like anxiety and depression and improving well-being. My personal background is in fitness. I used to be a personal trainer, and I strongly believe that the connection between your mental and physical health are closely tied, and that exercise should be prescribed as part of a treatment plan for mental health disorders because it does make such a difference. And finally, I learned that doctors and other health specialists are already using therapeutic techniques to target brain plasticity in order to treat mental health disorders. Those include drugs like SSRIs or ketamine, non-invasive neural stimulation like TMS, and cognitive behavioral interventions like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, or mindfulness training are all currently being used to stimulate neuroplasticity to treat things like depression, anxiety, OCD, PTSD, and addiction. So the impact of this, obviously the brain's ability to change itself and adapt has huge implications for my field of interest. But I think, and we know that because it's already being targeted through various medical and therapeutic interventions that are being used to treat mental health disorders and improve psychological well-being. But it also is important for everyone to know about. It means that as we learn new things, take on new experiences, and challenge ourselves, that our brains are growing and changing with us. It gives me a sense of hope and wonder and a desire to keep learning and keep growing, and I hope it does for you too. Thank you.